LEGO SpongeBob is one of my all-time favourite LEGO themes, so I thought it'd be high time that I spoke about some of those sets in depth. This is the Mrs.Puff's boating school, which released in 2007. I think it was around $50 USD at the time. I don't know what the NZ price was, but I think I paid around $80 for this right as the New Zealand countrywide lockdown took place. So this did take a wee while to be delivered, but boy was it worth it. LEGO SpongeBob, as I mentioned, is one of my absolute favourite LEGO themes. I'm always trying to acquire every set. I managed to get maybe 3 or 4 of these over the past few years. Not too bad, really. I've covered this theme before on the channel in a series about reflection on the themes, but actually going in depth on the sets is a more enjoyable experience, so here we go. I think the overview here is incredible. We have a very nice looking build for Mrs. Puff's school, but it comes complete with a training course for SpongeBob to cheat in. The build is quite large with all of these added extras, so it does feel worthwhile even though it's a little flimsy in its design. This set is also specifically based on an episode, that episode being from Season 1, Episode 4, Boating School, in which SpongeBob tries to pass his driver's test with the help of Patrick by feeding him answers through a walkie-talkie. A SpongeBob set being based on a specific episode is surprisingly a rarity across this theme, so it's cool to see it here. The training grounds are connected via these Technic pegs, so it's a lot easier tackling this set if we just remove these added extras for the time being. I'm also likely to display this set without all of these extras connected. The set just takes up too much room on displays otherwise. I'll talk about the boating school building first because it feels like that's the main draw of this set. There is a dock that leads to the entranceway and a build that represents wear and tear quite nicely, both stylistically and also literally. The first thing to acknowledge about older sets like this are stickers. Some actually look pretty good today and some look god awful. Everyone's made sure to be careful now in the modern era by taking care of your stickers on old LEGO sets, but LEGO, this is exactly why people don't like stickers in sets. Some details that I love are definitely in the colours of this. I might sound like a broken record when it comes to a set like this, but colours make everything click for me, especially when you're talking about older LEGO sets based on cartoons. But I also love the choices that are made here, like the mix of blues and greys for the roof, which makes it feel like it's an old, dated building in world. Now the accuracy itself isn't exactly 100%, released at a time where LEGO kinda did their own thing when it came to accurately representing the source material. The roof is wrong, but everything else here is pretty correct. The lighthouse on the side is rarely showcased in the show, only recently did it play a large role in an episode from season 12. It's more just been there for display, so interesting that LEGO took it upon themselves to fill it out for us, but after seeing what's inside, maybe there's a reason why we never go here in the show. It's empty in here, resulting to simply a workman's tools area, a ladder that cannot be accessed by anyone included in the set, and the light itself, which can rotate. This is a great depiction of what's actually wrong with the theme itself for me, and that's amazing exterior builds that ultimately just become facades. The exteriors are amazing, I love all of those designs and the cartoon aesthetic that translates so well into LEGO, but there is very little to do in these sets otherwise, so this should be evident for why the theme needs to come back with new sets and new building techniques. The inside of Mrs. Puff's classroom is better, but it is a low bar. There are 2 clamshell seats here for the classmates. While missing the desks, it's actually pretty on point with what the show has. I do wish that the colours were a bit more spot on, and I'm imagining what a 2023 set would look like with all those extra details on her walls as LEGO elements. That set would be really great. Mrs. Puff has a desk at the front of the class, she can stand behind it pretty easily, and SpongeBob can kind of be seated in class. It looks pretty good when it's all together like this. We then move on to the training grounds of this set and what makes it actually based on that episode. We have a starting point, a ramp, a ring of fire, a brick wall obstacle, an anchor obstacle, and a finishing line. There's also a set of cones included on the side. Okay, let's get something straight here. You are about to watch a butchered demonstration of the play feature. It is entirely possible for SpongeBob to be able to fly through this course on his pullback motor car. Trouble is, I didn't have a lot of space here, and I also wasn't thinking when I was filming this. Trust me when I say it can work, I've seen it happen. The start and finish line builds are quite simple. They use this really old tree part that I got in junior sets as a kid for pirates and stuff, but there are some stickers for those signs. The brick wall build is one of my favorites, though it represents a pretty bad dated practice. The sticker of simply wall looks really good, and it can be broken down into 3 pieces in total, ideally from SpongeBob driving right through it. The stickers are applied over multiple LEGO bricks though, which by today's standards is a big no. The anchor is also a really cool build that is possibly supposed to represent the anchor that's seen on the school grounds. It's on a swivel so it can spin when SpongeBob hits it. Ideally it spins all the way around, but as mentioned, I'm not skilled enough to pull that off. The starting line area is really cool for having those large tile plate parts acting as sand here with giant arrows pointing in which way to go. The ramp was too much for SpongeBob to get over this time though, but it can be done. The ring has an absolute pitiful amount of flames up at the top, and it uses these 2 pieces for some details, nothing really major here. Let's talk about this big Boatmobile, which is a very large chunk of LEGO bricks that would be redesigned later on down the theme's line. As shown, it's so thick because it has a pullback motor inside that's actually really speedy, believe it or not. I should have 2 stickers of the number 18 on here, but one of those has peeled away, but it is accurate to the show. SpongeBob does fit inside just by standing, and as shown throughout, he can go speeding away. Here's me actually almost losing the Boatmobile down the side of my working area. I had never felt more scared filming something. The SpongeBob minifigure was great because most iterations of that character involved a special face print. Not always, but a good amount of inclusions. This one features a quirky expression sticking out his tongue. He does include an antenna piece to simulate Patrick talking to him through his walkie-talkie, but he doesn't have a hat to hide it under. The body piece is a sandwich board for those who don't know, which slots over a regular body piece with little legs. He's a really hard character to translate 100%, but he does function pretty well as a minifigure, so I think they did a good job. Patrick Star is a figure that I also really like, but I think he's the hardest character to translate, and I don't think he translates very well. He was re-released in 5 sets total, the most amount of re-releases that a figure saw in this line, so there's not a whole lot that's special about him print-wise compared to the other releases that I'll be looking at, but this figure does have the walkie-talkie, as I've mentioned so many times now. His head is a special triangle piece that's made of a plastic. It's not a rubber material, so that is really cool, and as mentioned, he was quite common across these sets. Mrs.Puff, however, is a very special figure. She would eventually have a re-release with new prints, but that wouldn't happen for years later down the line. The way she works, she is built out of 2 dome-like pieces that connect together, hollowed out inside. The parts remind me of LEGO in the 70s and the 80s, something about that hollowed piece and the legs just feel like a really retro part. Prints are really cool, and the printing does go all the way to the top of her head for her hair. Her fins have no movement, in fact, she has no movement at all. She is a completely static figure, but I think her likeness is quite well executed. Before we go, I'll show you the instructions, which is always one of my favorite parts of all the LEGO sets. It's one of those bigger books, and unfortunately it is pretty bare on the theming throughout. At the back there is an ad for completing a survey, but it also advertises the Dinos 2000s theme and the minifig scaled Bionicle sets. Nice ad! There's an ad for LEGO Club and even a comic strip of, I guess, LEGO's original story for the set. A 2-page spread going over all of the play features, and on the very back something that I'm really not used to seeing, but it's more artwork of the set altogether instead of that kid yelling at me that I can win something. That's my look at the LEGO SpongeBob Mrs.Puff's boating school. I think that the set more than any others really shows off the theme's highest points, and that at the same time it also shows off the lowest points. Beautiful builds and decor, fantastic figures, and an overall charm that hasn't been matched since for me personally, but also tragically, it relies too heavily on those gorgeous dated sticker details and a lack of interactive features inside the structure, meaning the sets don't stand a chance compared to other beloved releases. If you enjoyed this retrospective look at a LEGO set, liking and subscribing helps to support the channel. Take care.